Sean Turnell, thank you so much for joining me today. It's now been a year since you were released after 650 days of arbitrary detention in Myanmar. How are you?
I'm good. I have down days, but I have more good days than I have down ones. I sometimes get flashbacks, there'll be some little event happen to me, just walking around, and I'll be instantly back in the prison. So I still get a bit of that. But yeah, the idea that I lost nearly 2 years of my life to this just seems bizarre now.
So you have written a book now, a year on. You detail very vividly the mistreatment that you received. How did you get through it all?
So I think understanding what people were doing for me outside, number one, that my wife and my daughter were just doing incredible things in the background, my family, my friends, the Australian government, the US government, the UK government, the Vietnam government, everyone were just doing all these things. I was aware of that, and that gave me incredible impetus to keep on going.
In the book you praise Australian consular officials and DFAT staff, but at a higher government level in Australia, do you think enough was done early enough to advocate for your release?
I think in the early period there were a few missteps along the way. It's one of those things where the regime in Myanmar is so bad and so indifferent to international opinion. I'm not quite sure whether it would have made much difference. But certainly the government gradually stepped up.
Myanmar's been in turmoil since the coup. Do you think that Australia as a country in the same neighbourhood is doing enough to call that out and to help the people?
One of the tragedies of Myanmar is that concern for the country has just slipped ever further down the agenda, and there is a role, I think, for countries like Australia, particularly working for some of the groups that are trying to oppose the military and what they're doing in Myanmar. I think there's a strong role for a country like Australia.
We get a lot of statements from the Australian government of deep concern for Myanmar, but certainly there was no action for a long time and there were no sanctions until you were out of prison. How does that sit with you?
That always worried me. So, on top of the suffering, the day-to-day suffering and all that, was this icing on the cake of guilt, that proper policy might be being held up by my situation.
Do you think it was?
I think that probably was a consideration, yeah. And of course, even at the time, so having said that I worried about it, you can't help, as being the person concerned, to have mixed feelings about it because, at the same time, you don't want the punishment to come to you because of your government as well. So it's just being really honest about it. So it's a strange situation to be in.
When you were finally released, you were given just 10 minutes to pack up. How do you choose what to take?
But there was one thing I wanted to bring back to Australia, and that's this. So what it is, it's an elephant, but it's made out of used coffee sachets that have all been woven together to form an elephant. I choked up when I was given it by this fellow political prisoner. It was the one thing that I tried to keep safe and undamaged, and so I brought it all the way home, and it's now become my prized possession.
First a book, next a film. You've indicated already who you'd like to play you.
Indeed. And I declared that I wanted Brad Pitt to play me, but I have this terrible fear all the way to the present that they're going to cast Danny DeVito to play me.
Well, I wish you all the very best of luck with that. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thanks, Mazoe. Thank you.